I are here in Dresden. We're only here for 2.5 hours on our way to Prague. It is quite impressive though. Most of the city center I'm about to show you was destroyed in bombings in 1945 and has been rebuilt completely using some of the rubble. They figured out where they were supposed to go using some kind of 3D technology, I don't know, but you'll see the bricks are different colors. Some are, look, war scarred and others don't. The ones that do are from the original rubble that was left over. This is the Opera House.
어디? 저기 앞에 바로 앞에 이게 뭔데? 캠페인? Huh? Oh goodness, I'm all loppy. I decided that I really like Germany. just saw inside of was this church right here. Yeah, what?
Cruises where they take you to all these things where you just do scuba when you go to port. You know, they can swim.
Yeah.
Stay on the boat.
I love swimming.
Oh, it's nice.
It is. Let me get out of the way. Hey Ken, there's people up there. How'd they get up there? You can see they're still not completely done reconstructing this one. You guys keep working on it. I've been doing it for decades. Uh-oh, it's about to drip drop. Sam and I are going up in this thing, which I think will lead to the top of this. Stairs. Europe loves stairs. Alright, if we walk around. Oh wow, Cam. When they get this finished, it's going to be amazing. I'll have to come back one day. We're almost out of time here in Dresden, so we decided to take a walk on the bridge. I like water, and Kim likes bridges. That's one of the reasons we're so simpatico. It works out pretty well. Because we walked up here, we saw this. So now we're heading over there. So those canopy of trees. Wow, everything's so close together. I bet if it rained, you wouldn't feel it.
I want a canopy of trees.
Huh?
I want one. How do you groom that? You know?
What?
How do you groom something like this?
I don't know. Kim wants a tree canopy, a tree roof.
I've always wanted one.
Really?
Yeah.
But you don't like nature.
Yeah, but I want roses though.
Oh, he'll
No, I
get...
like roses. I like nature. I just can't be in it.
Because it tries to kill you.
Yeah, and that happened when I moved to North Carolina, but I think if I lived somewhere else, I'd be fine.
Oh. Yeah, North Carolina's really bad for allergies.
Because I was always an outside kid. Always.
If you got a bunch of roses, though, you get a bunch of bugs.
But my mom has roses all over, and you don't have to tend to them. They tend to themselves.
That's views and
Hold on, Cam. I saw a good shot, so.
Yeah, I was talking about that one. You were talking about this one?
Yeah. No, I was talking about that one, but I didn't know we couldn't get there that way. This way. I'm a tourist, Cam. What do I know? I'm coming, I'm coming. There's plenty of room around me, Cam. Videotaping is scary business. I almost fell down the stairs. Ooh. I'm following you. Ah! Running for the car. We didn't think we were going to be able to stumble across this, but we somehow did.
I did. I never had a doubt.
And now we're going to go inside.
I had never had a doubt.
I'll delete it. It's done.
Wait, my sneezy out. Bird. Birds aren't supposed to sneeze. There must be something wrong with it.
No, all animals sneeze. We're in Prague on a bridge of some kind. I don't know which. Not quick enough.
No desert.
Wait, can you do that again?
Mountains and lots of forest.
That's how much it's the opposite of desert.
No, actually. You guys don't even know what Canadian bacon is, man. Why would they order up some Canadian bacon and give me a piece of ham?
Attached to the bridge on the ponting. Okay, there he is. Now, you'll come back looking this way. I don't want you all looking at the sun. Okay, so this is a guy called Brunswick. He was a knight. You can see there's got a sword. The sword is also known as Brunswick. Now he's the only non-saint on the bridge. All the others are religious figures. They're all saints, and they're all connected with the Jesuits of the 18th century, late 17th, early 18th century, when they put the statues on the bridge. So they're not as old as the bridge itself. This guy's connected to a Czech legend. Okay, his sword is apparently buried somewhere in the bridge here. And on St. Wenceslas Square is St. Wenceslas, sat on his horse. Now he was one of the first kings, rulers. He was actually a duke, the good King Wenceslas from the Christmas carols. But he brought Christianity to these lands. And they say that if the Czechs are ever in trouble, that the horse, the statue on Wenceslas Square, will come alive. He'll ride across this bridge, and then his horse will stumble on one of the cobblestones. And under the stone, Wenceslas will find the sword Brunswick. Then he will go to Blanik Mountain, where he will awaken his knights, and they'll come forth and destroy the enemies of the Czechs. Okay, it's a lovely legend, King in the Mountain story, and so on. That's it. That's the legend there. That's a nicer one. Okay, most of the Czech legends are pretty grim. I'll tell you a few later.
Ještě byste něco našli.
There's more. Okay, draw close, draw close. Nobody here doing it at the moment, but very often you'll see people standing there like this, rubbing the plaques, okay? Well, fool them. Okay, one is good luck, the other's bad luck. You shouldn't rub both, you only need to rub the one. So if you're superstitious, you need to rub the lady on the right hand side and not the dog on the left, okay? But they're both connected to the story of this guy and how he was later sainted. His name is Saint John of Nepomuk. He was a priest at the times of Wenceslas IV. Wenceslas IV was the son of the famous Charles IV, okay? But his son was not a very good king, unfortunately. A big trouble at the time. There was a major conflict between the Catholics, Roman Church, and a local form of early Protestants, if you will, known as the Hussites, after a leader known as Jan Hus. I'll tell you more about that later. Now, Wenceslas IV, he had this big headache between the Archbishop, the Hussites, and it's like, oh, the Roman Church, the Pope's pressuring me. So he tried to convince the Archbishop to change his mind. But the Archbishop escaped and he caught instead 3 priests. Now the king apparently tortured this man with burning torches. He burnt his sides, okay? And then he was so horrified in the morning with his hangover, because he used to drink a lot, Wenceslas IV. He was like, oh no, what have I done? Quick, get rid of the body. So they tied him up in a basket and they threw it off the bridge further down. You see a small golden cross on the left-hand side, okay? John of Nepomuk's body was found a few weeks later upriver. Not very nice, or downriver even, I can never get it right. And then there was a big problem, yeah? Well, that's one theory. Another one is actually that John of Nepomuk was the Queen's confessor, okay? She went to confession, and she told the priest, of course, all of her sins. Now, the king was convinced that his wife was having an affair. Oh yeah, that lady, she is cheating on me. So, he went to the priest. She must have told the priest, right? And John of Nepomuk says, well, I know you're king, but it's between me, her, and God. I can't tell you, okay? But the story ends the same. He was tortured because he wouldn't speak. Now, they say the only other person in the room during the confession, I'd like to see the building with the golden roof. The Czechs like to say that this is a crown. Okay? This is the National Theatre. Now, there was an earlier National Theatre built back in the 1890s, and 3 weeks after it opened, it burnt to the ground. The Czechs love theatre, okay? There's over 50 theatres in Prague. They absolutely love it, the culture, all this kind of stuff. And they were so unhappy about this, so sad, they were crying. They collected money. Within 2 days, around the country, they collected enough money to build a second national theatre, okay? That's how much the Czechs love their culture. This is a good place to find on most maps. So it's just, if you like, if you go down and map the river, next bridge along from Charles Bridge. Next bridge up from Charles Bridge, here you have the Rudolfina, which is the finest concert hall here in Prague. The Czech Philharmonic Orchestra plays. The 2 major cultural centres, near there. Straight behind me, this is the Clementinum, which was built by the Jesuit order. It's still one of the biggest highlights of the Roman Church here in Prague. And up on the hill, if you look back behind the sun there, you see the towers there of St. Vitus Cathedral. Started under the reign of Charles IV, but it wasn't finished until 1929. Over 1,000 years of construction has gone into that building. The Czechs are a bit late. No, they work really hard, but there were wars and there were fires, okay? They do like to drink their beer though, the Czechs. Has anybody heard this? Yes. The Czechs, they drink more beer than anyone else in the world. That's a fact. 162 litres per person per year. Now, of course, this is an average, so this includes children, yeah? But they don't obviously give it to babies, that would be wrong. But I was on the river this weekend, on the river Vltava right here, a little bit upstream, doing some rafting, and I did see what looked like a 9-year-old girl having a sip from the bottle. But anyway.
I always read. Oh my goodness.
just for fun, I guess. Is everybody here? I arranged a little old trumpety thing for you. Just kind of guy I am. Okay, here he is. Look at him. Charles IV, Carlo IV. Okay, the father of this country. Not only did he build Charles Bridge, he also founded the St. Vitus Cathedral. He also founded a university, the first university in Central Europe. It was the oldest university north of the Alps and east of Paris. And it's a very important thing. Not only this, he built a section of the city known as the New Town. If you look at a map of Prague, you'll see the Old Town. We're in the Old Town. You've got the Malastrana district, you've got the Jewish quarter, and then there's this whole other section, the New Town, which is bigger than the whole lot. The guy had vision. It was the second largest city by population in Europe under Charles IV. 40,000 people. Wow. Okay, but no sanitation, no gas, no electricity, no roads. Can you imagine 40,000 people in one space? That's a whole Phaeton project going on right there. Fourth largest city by area. Rome was the biggest city at the time, and that's understandable. But Charles IV, they call him the father of this country, and if you look at the 100-crown note, okay, you'll see him on there, which is the smallest note in circulation, but you'll see him all the time, so that's not a bad thing. By the way, if you need to change money, I will tell you of an big stones. These are the oldest cobblestones in Prague. They used to belong to the Judith Bridge. Okay, and I said to you earlier that all of the composers, but as in the Czech Philharmonic Orchestra play here, so they have composers at the top, but I know that this one is Beethoven. He's grumpy. He didn't live in Prague, but I just like it. He was so grumpy, yeah, he once sacked his butler because he didn't iron his shirts properly. It's like, that's it, get out of my house. When he was composing, his landlady said that he would have a bucket of water by the table because his head would get hot. So he was writing notes. Oh, head, this. Hey, come over here, take a seat. Make yourself comfortable. So where's everybody from? We've got some people from Korea here. Anybody else from Southeast Asia?
Yeah.
No? Yeah?
Malaysia.
From Malaysia? Yeah. What about any Australians in the house? I really want you to see between the two posts on the bridge. Okay? As the sun comes back out again, perfect timing. Prague Castle is the world's largest medieval castle. That is a fact. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Wow.
70,000 square meters of building complex. It is 583 meters long and it averages 150 meters wide. It was started in 870 AD. Wooden buildings, there's nothing left. Stone buildings came in the next couple of centuries. There are Romanesque foundations still, the St. George Basilica, for example, dating from the 11th century. Over time, they kept building, it's layers upon layers, different kings have ideas. So you'll also see up there Gothic architecture, you'll see Renaissance, Baroque, you'll see neoclassical, everything you can imagine is up there, okay? It is also the seat of the president in this country. At the moment, if you look on the left-hand side, you have those buildings with the blue kind of roofs. There's a flagpole, it's empty, which means the president is out of the country. That's a good thing. Or maybe it's a bad thing. Last year he was in Chile, in South America. He stole a pen
Oh yeah.
at a press conference. So now they have the pen-stealing president. The Czechs are incredibly proud. No. Anyway, Václav Klaus, not in the country. St. Vitus Cathedral, as I say, started in the year 1344, not finished until 1929. So it's Gothic, but it's also neo-Gothic. It stretches all the way to the right-hand side. You have the small tower with the red roof. It's known as the Black Tower. Okay. Why is it called the Black Tower? Because there was a big fire in 1541, destroyed most of the other side of the river, including parts of the castle, and the smoke from the fire made the tower black. All right. Now there's one thing you have to see in Prague, and that is the castle. Okay, you have to go up there. The courtyards are open; they're free. The gardens are free to walk around. Up on the hill on the other side here. To go inside the buildings, you will have to pay. It's like, okay, it's like maybe. So if you do want to go inside, get on TripAdvisor first, have a look, see what people say. One palace is complete with all of the family possessions and paintings and furniture. So if you want to have an idea, the Lobkowitz Palace is where you should head to. Okay. What else can I tell you? Don't have lunch in the castle grounds. Don't eat. Go in the area behind. It's called Hrachany. Okay. Or if you take the tram, number 22, up on the hill, 5 stops from the. It's a bit strange. Some people say it's 1,000 years old. Street level 1,000 years ago, and the city was 4 to 8 meters lower than we are today. So why have they made such a high cemetery? Very simple. We know the earliest grave dates from 1439. That's the oldest stone that they found. The latest one, 1787. 18th century reforms. Joseph II gives the Jewish community a new cemetery. Up until this point, the Jewish community had to use this place as their burial ground. Now, they ran out of room. And this is a real problem in the Jewish faith because the body must be buried in the ground. You can't cremate the body. You can't put it in a tombstone. It has to go into the earth. Okay? Fine. So they bring in earth and they pile it on top, and then they dig one grave on top of another. They put one gravestone in front of another. Very soon the cemetery fills up, so they have to do this again, and then again, and then again, and again. Up to 12 people in some places are buried on top of each other. Around 12,000 gravestones, as in Yiddish. Okay. In English we call it the Old New Synagogue. The Old New. It's very old, actually. It's not that new at all. Dates to 1270 AD. It makes it the oldest still active synagogue in Europe, and it's one of the oldest buildings, definitely in the Jewish quarter, but almost in the old town as well, because a lot of buildings restored, built on top of, and so on. Okay, you can see it's an early Gothic building. Now, its name is a mistranslation. Altanai, Old New. How does that work? It means on condition in Yiddish because they say the foundation stones were borrowed from the original temple in Jerusalem, and they'll be returned to Jerusalem when the Messiah comes. Okay. Now, Altanai in German sounds a little bit like Altneu, doesn't it? Altanai, Altneu. Oh, yeah. Well, there were German speakers in. It's a mistranslation, folks. They were like, the Altneu synagogue. I can imagine it might have been Rudolph II, actually. He's a bit of a funny man. Into strange ideas. Rocks up in town one day and says, what is the name? The Altneu. Oh, that's nice. And they say, no, Emperor, sir, that is the Altneu. Altneu, yeah? Do you know who I am?
Impressive.
No, that's wait. That's too cobbly.
Ooh.
Okay, Old Town Square, folks. This is kind of where it all began for the city, if you like. There's been a marketplace here since the 9th century AD. which is more or less when city records began. As I said to you, street level a lot lower. So when you look around you, oh, you can't see anything over there. If you look around you, ground floor was once upon a time the first floor. Okay, the building behind there, with not the church, but the one just to the left, Gothic building, is called the Stone Bell House. If you look on the corner of the building, there's a carved bell. It's actually where Charles IV was born, not at the castle, right here in town. The castle was a wreck at the time, and one of the things he did was to really build it back up again in his lifetime. The church next door is called the Church of Our Lady Before Teen. It's another one of the many churches Charles IV had commissioned and built. 1365, they didn't finish until 1511. Twiddling their thumbs, I don't know what they were doing. There were wars, folks, religious struggles, I'll come back to that in a moment. Look at the two towers, you'll see they're not the same size. Yeah? The right hand tower is slightly larger than the left. They have a name for this. Adam on the right hand side, and on the left hand side. Okay. Great excuse for bad workmanship. The religious wars are the responsibility of this man right here. His name is Master Jan Hus. He was a Roman Catholic priest, and he told the Roman Catholic Church that they were wrong. That went down really well. What did he mean? Well, basically, at the time, in the 14th and early 15th century, the church really didn't represent the people. The priests were corrupt, and the higher up you went, the more corrupt they were. The priests were the only one who took the communion of the wine, the blood of Christ. And he said, this is not fair. If it's a communion, a coming together, everyone should get both, the bread and the wine. Also, basically, you could pay to get your way to heaven. You could buy what were called indulgences from the priests. So you didn't have to go to confession, you didn't have to say your Hail Marys and Our Fathers, whatever, that's how it works in the Catholic Church. You could go to the priest and say, hey, I've done something bad. He said, all right, 5. There we go, done. You could buy indulgences in advance. You could go to the priest and say, hey, I'm thinking of sleeping with the neighbour's wife next week. And the priest says, fine, here's your indulgence, come back, tell me how it was. But anyway, Jan Hus said, wrong! And so he was invited to Constance, which is in Germany, where for a year he was put in a prison to get him to change his mind. He didn't change his mind. The church declared him a heretic. And what did the church do with heretics? They invited him for a nice steak dinner, fries on the side. They tied him to a stake, folks, and then they burnt him to death. Lovely. To make sure they did the job properly, they took his heart on another wooden stake, they burnt it again. Then they took his bones from the ashes and they crushed them to dust and they threw them into the river. Now they totally underestimated how much the people here loved this guy, because he preached on a daily basis to 10% of this city's population. 4,000 people came to the Bethlehem Chapel every single day and they listened to this guy. He was thrown out of Prague by the other theologians. He went to the countryside and he said, poor people, I'm looking out for you. I'm going to make sure you get to heaven. And they were like, you're our man. So they called themselves the Hussites, after Master Jan Hus. And then we got Jan Žižka, Jan Hus, Jan Žižka, 7 foot tall, one eye, kicked some ass in battle. Okay? So they're the two famous Jans. There are more. There's also Jan Palach, there's Jan Zeitz, there's a lot. That's a good thing to do. Talking names though in a moment, just around the corner at the clock. Let's go and have a look. Nazi bombing barrage. The Nazis were in town and they bombed themselves. All very confusing. They wanted to get out, so they had to crush the resistance, and the only way they could do it is to blow the city up. Yeah, craziness. Anyway, another story.
That's not a street story.
Going to the clock now.
We're going to be just in time for the cuckoo now.
Woohoo!
9 o'clock, or watch now. Quick, a little bit quicker and we'll catch him. Because it's the most
Just hold on to the seat of your pants. It's just gonna whiz off in a second.
There's a huge crowd here. It's about this time. Apparently it's really neat.
Top and then the blue door. And I'll explain to you what it's all about afterwards, okay? I'm going to watch everyone else. The reactions are charming.
Oh, yay! Hey Kim, you apparently can go inside. You apparently can go inside.
Three guys, they're shaking their heads like, oh. Crowning glory coming soon.
Ôi trời cũng đó à. Đi đầu những người sùng gì nữa tụi à.
My group and I'll tell you what it is you just seen. No. Okay, folks, what you have just looked at is a very interesting movement of puppets, okay? But what you're also looking at is the world's oldest still functioning astronomical and astrological clock. There are two older ones, they do not work. This clock dates to 1410. It means it's 602 years old this year. Some of the mechanisms are still original, and that is amazing, and it blows my mind. Okay? In the 1490s they added the Gothic stone carvings on either side. In the 17th century they had the statues on either side. Now these four at the top, they represent what the church was scared of. Okay? I'll come back to those in a moment. And at the bottom we've got the four virtues. This is what the church wanted you to do with your lives. In the 19th century, hi girls, they added the two blue doors at the top and they added this calendar dial at the bottom. Look in the middle of the calendar, you'll see a castle. This represents the city of Prague. Many other cities with two towers, one tower, different symbols on the towers and so on. Normally, from this gate is an arm with a sword. Okay? The sword was given to the city by the Habsburgs. Maybe you worked out the Habsburgs aren't so popular. During the period of the Czech national revival in the 19th century, the artist said, no thank you, we don't need that. Around that 12 small circles, the zodiac signs. Around that 12 bigger circles, you can see pictures of the farming months. This is what's happening in the fields at the time, basically. So March, for example, there's the ploughman turning over the soil. Top, they're threshing the corn, okay? Around that we have a white ring, 365 names, one for each day of the year. The Czechs have a birthday, they have a name day. If you like, in other countries it's a saint day. The Czechs are one of the most atheist countries in the world, but they keep this tradition going. Once upon a time, every person in this country had to have a name chosen from this list, okay? And nowadays you can ask for a different name. So if you want your son to be called Apple, the government will look at you funny, you can sign some paperwork and it's fine. So you won't find many Chardonnays in this country. But we've got a white ring, some great names on here. Any of you guys called Bohumil? Ladies, Božena? Guys, Zdeněk. Ladies, Zdenka. What about Yaroslav, Miroslav, Staroslav? No? But I have to say my favourite man's name in this country is Svatopolk, which means saintly military unit. It's a man's name. You could be saintly military. The family names are even better. One of their most famous composers is a guy called Smetana. He's anybody heard of him? Bedřich Smetana wrote a beautiful piece of music called Composer. What did I say? Writer? Oh, beg your pardon. Composer. Smetana means cream. Put in your coffee. They got people called Mr. Žabka, which means frog, or Zayet, rabbit. My favourite family name has to be Neverdiel, which means I didn't know. This is the Powder Tower, is what most people say, but in actual fact it's the Powder Gate. Okay? The Gothic features are not original, they're from the 19th century, when it was actually known as the Ugly Tower. It's true. It wasn't really unattractive, it was falling down, and they were going to completely destroy it, but they kept it, which is a good thing, as it is the last remaining example of an old town defensive tower. There were 13, one left. There were 5 gates, there's only 1 gate left. The new gate, when they built the new town, they needed to make a new hole in the wall. Charles IV said, yeah, make this one. I want to draw your attention to this gentleman sat on the bottom left here. His name is Jiří Spodibrat. Okay, yeah, that's a mouthful. Jiří means George. Okay, George of Podibrady. But anyway, I'd like to talk about him because he was elected king by the Bohemians after the First Hussite War. They elected him. Now, he wasn't some fancy aristocrat from Austria or from Poland. He was a Czech, lower ranking noble. He had nothing to his name apart from the Czechs loved him. So they elected the common man to become their ruler. Now that sounds remarkably like democracy to me. Just think about this for a moment. The Czechs looking for their own religious identity, way before the Protestant Church even said there could be another idea. They're looking for their own ideal of democracy. They also had their own currency, courtesy of Charles IV and his father, around 600 years ago. So central Bohemia, little place, what they ever done? Nothing really. On the other side, we're going to have a look at this building because that's where the best view is from. That is the municipal house. Okay, municipal house, municipal, paid for by the citizens of Prague, built between 1905 and 1911. It is in a neo-Baroque architectural style. Ooh, get all technical. The features, the decoration though, is Art Nouveau. Has anybody heard of Art Nouveau? Okay, where's it come from? France. Okay, Gay Paris. It's true. The thing is, it was a Czech artist. To be more specific, it was a Moravian artist. Okay, 3 states in the Czech Republic: Silesia, Bohemia, and Moravia. He moved to Paris. His name was Alphonse Mucha, and he basically started this art movement. Okay, so the Czechs are very proud of this. The building itself is important, also symbolically, because it was in here that they signed the paperwork declaring Czechoslovakia to be a republic back on the 28th of October 1918. The square here is called the Square of the Republic, Nyamysty Republiky. You can catch trams back up your way from here, all right? Powder Tower, or the municipal house on most maps, very good place to try and find around the city, all right? Have a look around you. Over here, the KB Bank, look at that lovely style of architecture. Kinky. Functionalist is what that is, courtesy of the communists. This functionalist style is older. It is known as internationalist style from the 1920s and 30s. You can't blame the communists for all of the bad architecture, yeah? Turn around, have a look at this. This, folks, is neo-classical architecture known as Empire style. Which empire? Roman Empire. So you've got these sort of classic pillars there on either side. This is actually a theatre, the Irish theatre. Some monks came to live in the monastery and now it's a theatre, all right? I'm asking you to look around because we have all these different architectural styles in Prague, and that's why it's a gem. It is a gem in Europe, and many people travel around and they say this is just the best, this is amazing. And the interesting thing is even Hitler liked this place. That's one of the reasons why the city wasn't destroyed in the Second World War, because he moved the industry away so the Allies wouldn't bomb it. And there are other reasons as well. But what I'm trying to say is the Czechs are very lucky. The city wasn't destroyed in the Second World War. Parts of it had to be rebuilt, but it's still original. Okay? Which is why they come and make movies here. Oh yeah. Bourne Identity. Mission Impossible 1, Charles Bridge was used in that. Mission Impossible 4, I saw Tom Cruise in Prague. Yeah, he's a nice guy apparently. There's a story about that if you want him. But anyway, Brewster. Yeah, he's playing tonight. Anyway, yeah, so they made a lot of films. Euro Trip, A Hostel from Hell, Hellboy. They made Blade. That was my Wesley Snipes impression. But they also made Triple X. Has anybody seen that amazing movie? Triple X. Vin Diesel, what a man. He was sat on this balcony having dinner with a double agent, a Russian girl. She falls in love with him and says, Triple X, probably with more drama, Triple X. They want to kill you. And he says, oh really, where, how? From behind the lion with a gun. And he says, oh don't worry honey. He grabs the tray from the waiter, dazzles him with sunlight, and then he takes the tray, he slides down the staircase in here, through the gate, and ends up 2.5 kilometers on the other side of the river. Film magic, okay? If you ever see Moscow, Russia, it'll probably be Prague. Look out for the number 22 tram, because they very often like to film on the other side of the river in Malostana. Anyway, there we go, movie industry alive and well. The Czechs have been making films before LA was even built.
Can you remember which area in the crossing you said you should
Okay folks, Wenceslas Square is in the new town, alright? Right behind you basically is the boundary between the old town and the new town. This is where the defensive system was. This place is called Mustek. Most is bridge, Karl Most, Charles Bridge. Mustek Little Bridge. There used to be a bridge here across the stream. There's a stream flying up underneath the street here, but you can't see it, okay? New town, it's old, 1348, but it was newer than the old town. You see what they did?
Sorry guys, I'm not sure why it's not
Far end, the
focusing.
National Museum, built in 1891, the National Revival. And closer to us, maybe you can see, underneath the white banner is standing, a man on a horse. This is St. Wenceslas. You should go and have a look up here. It's a nice view back down the hill. You can either walk or you can get on the metro one stop if you're feeling a bit lazy. Don't have coffee in the middle like I did. You'll pay 3 times the normal price. I didn't realise, of course. Don't have dinner here either. Okay, that's the bad stuff out the way. Wenceslas Square. This is where Jan Palach committed suicide. This is also where Jan Zaitz committed suicide. This is where also the Czechs came and fought for their democracy. Not physically, but with their hearts and their minds. Okay? This is where the Prague Spring had a focal point back in 1968. This is the head of Prague. The Old Town Square, if you like, is the heart. Okay? So these are 2 focal centres. Now, I'd just like to say very quickly, this square on a few occasions has been full of around 300,000 people. Okay, it's not unheard of. The last time was on the 28th of December 2011, because one of their favourite, most loved people, a guy called Václav Havel, died just before Christmas. Has anybody heard of Václav Havel? A few people. Václav Havel was part of a group known as the Charter 77, who in 1977, after the Prague Spring normalisation, they wrote a piece of paper. They wanted this piece of paper, this statement, to be non-political. It was about humanity. It is still one of the finest articles on human rights. In fact, some countries, when they gained their own independence, basically took it as an article and have used it as their article on human rights. Václav Havel was a writer, a director, an actor. It was the arts movement who in this country, along with the students, very often are the ones who are protesting. So not only is culture something about entertainment, it's about an ideal that holds up the other side of life, which is basically their politics. Okay? Václav Havel said that 2 generations need to die in this country before it will again find itself, because communism has left such a mark. Now I want you all to know that actually, in some ways, communism was better. It was. The metro system, the transport system in this city, in this country, is courtesy of the communists. Their hospital system is not without troubles, but it exists. Where I live, there's a polyclinica, they have an orthopedic surgeon, they have a chiropractor, they have an eye doctor, everything there, just where I live. I don't have to go to some big hospital. People queued for food, it's true, but everyone had a job. There were no homeless people. The streets were super clean. And these are the benefits of a system that looked after its workers. Now, I don't argue that basically having one party and no choice is better, okay? But the Czechs had to make these very difficult decisions. I'm saying that here because if you want to look at 300,000 people celebrating a man who said you have a choice, this is where it happened, okay? I would love to carry on talking for hours. You can probably tell I could.
Why don't we do master and slave? And the girls are slaves, and the boys are the masters, you know? Boys all on it, we're 12 years old now.
Oh, guys, I'm showing you this building and Kim's talking about her crazy childhood. Go ahead.
Oh man, I took my thing out. Okay. So I'm like, why don't we do that? And like, okay. So of course we got masters and stuff. And the girls are like,
You had no idea what implications that was, did you?
no idea. I was a little kid, I don't care.
You came up with some crazy stuff.
Then you would get like I had this one group. No, I don't want to.